If I could give it 0 stars, I would. Hi, what's up everyone? It's Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my worst reads of 2021. So these are all the books that I gave 1 star on Goodreads, and then we're gonna move into all the books that I DNF'd this year. For reference, my 1 stars category has like a distinction of books that I thought deserved 0 stars, but obviously Goodreads doesn't allow you to give 0 stars to books. So they all have 1 stars. I will make that clarification if I thought it was not even a 1-star read when I talk about it. Just to preface this, a majority of this is romance. 11 out of the 12 books that I gave 1 star are romances, so I'll start off with that one book that was a 1-star read that was not romance. This was Deep Blue by Jenna Donnelly. This is a YA fantasy about mermaids. I really wanted to read this book when it first came out when I was like in early middle school. The cover is gorgeous. You would think that the story is also going to be gorgeous, but I just found that the world building for this book was off. Like, it was not solid. There's so many questions that are left unanswered, so many like fundamental parts of this world that are just like brushed over. Like, we don't really get how these mermaids are doing things in their world. So for that, I was just not a fan of it. And character-wise, I was not a fan of Serafina, who is the like main character. She was whiny and melodramatic and childish, and I was like, it's probably because this book is for a younger audience than me. So I gave it 1 star. I was planning to read the rest of the series, but considering how I did not like this book, it was just a no for me. And then we're moving on to our romances. The first romance on the list is already controversial. It is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I was not a fan of this book. I liked the movie more than a book. I'm not an enemies to lovers type of person, but there are romance novels where I have enjoyed the trope, but this book was just not one of them. For me, Josh and Lucy just seemed like an HR nightmare, and it's sort of hard to root for these 2 characters to end up together when they're literally verbally abusing each other in the office. And like, they've had this history of verbally abusing each other in the office. Like, it got to the point where Lucy was no longer comfortable in her own skin and being like viewing herself as beautiful and worthy, and I was like, I don't want you to end up with a person who made you feel that way. And also, when it came to Josh showing affection, I was like, that's the bare minimum. Like, the bar is literally below the floor and you're just barely meeting it. Like, some of the things that he did were creepy. In the movie, I feel like they did a better job of making Josh a little less antagonizing towards Lucy. Still not a huge fan of the movie. I just thought that book Josh was a lot douchier than movie Josh. And also, Lucy Hale carried that movie in literally every department. The next romance was You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This was like another like enemies to lovers second chance romance, because they're already engaged at this point when we first start off, but it's told from only Naomi's POV, and we see her talking about Nicholas, her fiance. She thinks that he's super sexist. I feel like if we had Nick's perspective, it would have gone a little better. We would have gotten a little more rationale of like how he's viewing her and like the reasoning for his actions, instead of just being like, I only love him 10%. I actually gave this book 2 stars when I first finished reading it, but that's only because I blocked out like the main chunk of the book because I just did not want to deal with it. The only thing that I really liked about this book is that those 2 teamed up together to knock his mother down a peg. Like, she deserved it. She is a Karen. Oh my gosh, I just realized Sarah gave this 4 stars. Sarah, are you okay? Because we hated on this book together. I'm confused. Next was In Holidaze by Christina Lauren. I read this for the Tinkerbell readathon in March. I was enjoying this book until it just got to this point where Malin, the main female lead, was literally like trying to get this guy to like her. That's just no. I do not like it when the girl falls first. I like it when the guy falls first and trying to like show that they care for a girl. But like for her, she was just trying to convince this man that he belonged with her. And that's not what I want in a romance novel. Like, But also, it's like a Christmas read and I read it in the middle of March, so maybe that had to do something with it. Also, because it was sort of like marketed as like a time loop romance, I thought that there was gonna be more time looping, but like that literally only happened in the first half of the book. Like, we did not get any more time loops in the second half of the book. And I was like, I feel a little bamboozled, a little betrayed. I did not get what I came here for. I feel like a lot of this started off when I first started getting into romance, so I was literally just hating every single romance that I was reading. The next book on our romance list was Faker by Sarah Smith, which is the Hating Game 2.0. But I feel like it's a little more sus. You know how Josh and Lucy fixate on how Lucy is so tiny? In this one, like, our main lead is a woman of color, and she constantly fixates on how white her male love interest is. And I was just like, I don't like that. Something was off about that. I can't put my finger on it, but no. And also there's really weird descriptions about how white he is. That's really awkward. This was a buddy read with Pooja. And then next up, we have the first two books of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This was my first foray into paranormal romance, and I felt like it would have been fine. Like, I did enjoy some of the other later books in the series, but for these two, the girls literally lost all their brain cells once they started hooking up with the men, and I was just not a fan of that. So I gave it 1 star. And then Dr. E.R. by Max Monroe was another book that I put on my shelf that deserves 0 stars. Like, if I could give it 0 stars, I would, because I was enjoying this book until they used fake rape allegations against the main guy to, like, introduce some tension. Like, if you're gonna use a serious real life topic that has a lot of, like, trauma for a lot of women, like, maybe don't approach it like that. Fake rape allegations do happen in the real world, but also it has been used to discredit all the other women who have actually had sexual violence happen to them. So I'm not a fan of, like, fake rape allegations in books or in real life, and I really did not like that this romance had used it in that way to introduce conflict and to just have these two end up hooking up again. Another romance that I read that I thought deserved 0 stars was Making the Rent by Jenna. This one, the tropes were already throwing me off. Like, they are not my favorite. It was a virgin romance. The guy is significantly older than her. He's not like a grandpa. He's just like a grown man, and she's barely legal. And also, she's a virgin, and the way that he was describing her and her virginity, really freaking creepy. And also, he kept talking about, like, wanting to breed her, and I was like, no, can we not? To make matters worse, she was like, I'm not like other girls. And I was like, wow, it creeped me out. I have quotes in my review to back up everything that I have to say, but I'm not gonna say them. I just don't want to get too heated. And then later that night, I read Santa's Obsession by Bray, and that was another virgin romance. And that one also used a real life, like, traumatic event to introduce tension and conflict. And I was like, why? This time, it was not fake rape allegations. It was a literal mall shooting. And I was like, and they just glanced over the aftermath. The way that Dr. E.R. and Santa's Obsession approached the topics that they were trying to use in their story as plot points, I did not appreciate it. The next two books that cap out this list, you've heard already in my holiday romance video, but it's Secret Santa by Mayra Statham. This one had the girl called Nori for, like, the whole book, and it had really cringy holiday themed dirty talk. And then the One Night Stand Before Christmas, you know, honestly, it wasn't that bad. I was just questioning consent, and I did not like the couple. Neither of those books ended up on my books that deserve 0 stars list, so it's not horrible. Now for the books that I DNF'd this year. The first book that I DNF'd was Tools for Titans by Timothy Ferris. This is literally a finance bro book. This is like how to become a corporate tool. I did not like that this was just a regurgitation of his podcast. It was also ridiculously long, so I DNF'd it before I could get too far into it. The next two books that I DNF'd, I feel bad for DNFing, but I think it was just the wrong time for me to be reading those books because my mind, like, I was not interested in reading either of those books when I was reading them. Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. When my library wanted the book back, I gave it back. So I started it, I think I got like 3 or 4 chapters in, but I never finished it. And then this book, When My Name Was Keoko by Linda Sue Park, was supposed to be for Dana and Sunny's like live stream, and actually I almost finished it. Like I think I only had 20 pages left and I just never did. That's really on me. I mean, because it's so short, I feel like I could read it. I should go back and read it. And then finally we have One Day in December by Josie Silver. I had wanted to read this book for literally years, but then it turned out that this book had cheating in it, and I just don't do cheating. Libby automatically took it back when my lease expired, and I'm probably never ever going to reborrow this book because I did not like the half of it that I read. With that, we have 4 books that I DNF'd and 12 one-star reads of 2021. All in all, like, that's actually not that much in the grand scheme of things. And I read a lot of books this year. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Stay fresh, and I'll catch you next time.